Hey, welcome to the Danger Zone. It's Ashley. All of this information can be found on a public domain somewhere out there on the World Wide Web. Lots of love and many blessings your way. And to everybody who has contributed to this video, I appreciate y'all so much. I have really tried taking a break from all of this mess, but every time I turn around, Meghan and Harry are up to something new. Have you ever ran into somebody or even seen them on TV or in books, and their eyes are just so dark? You can immediately get a feeling about that person. It happens to me all the time. And I can say that Meghan has probably the darkest, most wicked set of eyes I've ever seen. You can immediately tell who she is and what she's about just looking in her face. So she's been busted if you've not heard. There's a negative article in Tatler magazine called Catherine the Great, and it was written by none other than Jessica Maroney's sister-in-law Vanessa. It talks all sorts of negative, nasty stuff about Kate, which totally has Kate furious. And the article reads, Kate's furious about the larger workload. Of course, she's smiling and she's dressing appropriately, but she doesn't want this. She feels exhausted and trapped. She's worked as hard as a top CEO who has to be wheeled out all the time without the benefits of boundaries and plenty of holidays. That right there is just a smidget of what's to come. It gets way worse. In fact, she and William have filed a legal suit against Tatler magazine. It seems like everybody's coming out of the woodwork just to bully up on Kate. The editor-in-chief of Tatler magazine, Richard Dennin, happens to be a really, well, at one point, good friend to Kate. He totally stands behind this article. He says Kensington Palace knew we were running the Catherine the Great cover months ago. We asked them if they would work with us. They're big fat liars to say they had no clue this was coming out. This Richard Dennin was more than just a lunch buddy. Do you know he and Kate have actually traveled together? They've had family holidays together. And he took advantage of her and the situation with Meghan just for that dollar bill. Okay, so Richard Dennin and this Vanessa Maroney, they've been used by Meghan for this article. Mark my words, in a few months when everything's settled, we'll hear about them being ghosted by Meghan too. So Meghan finally steps out in a roundabout way to talk about George Floyd. In a roundabout way. She says, I remember the curfew and I remember rushing back home, and on that drive home seeing ash fall from the sky, smelling the smoke, seeing the smoke billow out of buildings, seeing people run out of buildings carrying bags and looting. I remember seeing men in the back of vans just holding guns and rifles. I'm so sorry for not getting you to a place where you need to be. This should be learned as a history lesson, not as your reality. Then she has the audacity to say this. People are standing in solidarity despite the race riots. We're seeing communities come together and to uplift. You are going to be a part of this movement. And I'm so proud to call each of you a fellow alumni, and I'm so eager to see what you're going to do. Please know that I'm cheering you on all along the way. I know you already know that Black Lives Matter, so I'm already excited for what you're going to do in this world. You are equipped, you are ready, and we need you, and you are prepared. Where do I begin? This is so frustrating, but I'm going to tell you from my perspective, my honest opinion, what I took away from this ridiculousness she calls a graduation speech. I mean a Black Lives Matter speech, of course. If you haven't seen this video, please find it, watch it a good couple of times, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. I have to ask, why is she using a filter, number one? Number two, she forgot to slather the tanner, the bronzer, on her neck. She's always stood with the white crowd. She's never considered herself African American, according to her own resumes. I always think about that story she told. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But she said it. Where she runs home from school upset, saying, Daddy, which box do I check? Am I Caucasian or am I African American? And of course, Thomas, Daddy of the Year, says, just draw your own box and check that one. Why would she even have to ask such a question? Why would that upset her if she identifies as an African American, as she does today, right, this minute? Why wouldn't she have just checked the African American box? It was super simple for her as a grown woman to check the Caucasian box. Every application, every CV and resume, anything acting related or supermodel related, as she called herself, the Caucasian box was checked. Not the African American, not the other. I personally find it a complete insult to African Americans and Caucasians. If you haven't noticed, she's one or the other, depending on what would most benefit her at the moment. So she's pulled her hair back. Her extensions are so old they're crunchy. Her veneers are off her teeth. Her eyes are weak and heavy. She's in all white. That's just to make her bronzer stand out darker than what it is. Girl, hit that neck next time. And she seems to have some sort of a rash around her mouth, which is neither here or there. It is what it is. Goes with the territory, I suppose. And at one point, she was trying to be somewhat sermon-like. You know what I mean? Like a Martin Luther King, which she'll never come close to being. In my honest opinion, outside looking in, and I've watched it so many times, this was so overdramatic, so absolutely go for the gusto, give it all you got. This is your one shot. Overdramatic. She's taken total advantage of what's happening, and she wanted to use the Black Lives Matter as a platform for whoever out there, director, producer, movie maker, might see this. It's just another piece to her resume, in my opinion. And what in the world does somebody like Meghan know about solidarity? Being there for each other, for the greater good, working together. She could not even stand with her own sister-in-law, who's in the same position as she's in, and support her as an empowered woman, as a friend, a sister, an aunt to the children. So who made her the authority over solidarity? Coming together, unification, me, myself, and I. That's all that matters to Meghan. Just like right now, she had somebody put out an article about the worst part of being a royal was their financial rules, their rules on how to spend money. She's had no problem in that regard. Being in the royal family, it's been proven that she herself has spent more money than any other royal in the last 2 years. Yet and still, that's one of her greatest complaints about being in the royal family. I thought privacy was her issue. Another piece of this situation that really bugs me, and I think a lot of African Americans should find this completely insulting as well. Like my friend Peter says, where are her beautiful natural curls? She has killed her natural hair to have soft, straight hair. As a hairstylist, you guys, I'm here to tell you, and I've tried telling women this over and over and over again, keep your hair natural. There's nothing more beautiful than African American hair when it's worn naturally. So she and Harry are now taking meetings with Black Lives Matter because it matters to her right now. Which, by the way, what would be the harm in she and Harry together being in a video? What is going on? Is he tied up at the moment? We never see them together behind the lens. And that in itself is really strange. But they've pounced on this Black Lives Matter thing because that's the only door opening for them right now. Nobody else will hit them with a spitball. Guess you have to strike while the iron's hot. Taking advantage of any opportunity that you have. Am I the only one that feels like that's a complete insult to Black Lives Matter? Speaking of insulting, let me share with you this really fast. They are being called the neighbors from hell, Harry and Meghan. Everybody in their neighborhood, everybody in their area have been given a set of rules and regulations to follow regarding Harry and Meghan. Even stores and boutiques are given rules and regulations when it comes to Harry and Meghan. One of those rules and regulations, do not speak to them. They will speak to you. And do not make eye contact with them. Do you know what that reminds me of? As everybody who knows me knows, my mom's mom was a black woman, and of course her mother was a black woman. We called her Cotton Top, due to her snowy white hair. She was a teeny tiny woman, mean as a snake. She would talk about her days picking cotton or even digging sweet potato fields all day long from sunup to sundown. Talking about how thirsty they'd get, and I'd say, Cotton, did you bring a jug of water? You know, how would you get a drink of water? Could you ask whoever was in charge for water? And she would tell me things like you couldn't speak to these people that were in charge. You weren't allowed to really make eye contact. There would be one worker that was sort of the mouthpiece for everybody else. Now, doesn't that feel like that's exactly what Meghan and Harry are doing to not only their neighbors, but these stores and boutiques? You're not allowed to look at them. You're not allowed to speak to them first. And how nasty she treated the royal servants. Kate had to tell her, we don't treat our staff this way. Yet, Black lives matter to her? No lives matter to her but her own. And that's just my opinion. I find it completely insulting that now she and Harry both are on board, having meetings with Black Lives Matter. How absolutely rotten that they're taking advantage of a really, really sad situation. Lord, I've talked so much today. Anyway, I'm praying that all of this resolves in a peaceful manner. I wish we could all come together with love in our hearts. You guys, I'll see you soon, and we'll talk fast. Please stay safe and be blessed.